Hi, my name is Carter Razink, CEO and co-founder of DropChain. Today, we're going to show you how to opt in and send a token or NFT or an asset from one user to another using the DropChain API, 100% no code. If you haven't yet, create a free account on DropChain.network, 100% free, and do the quick start guide within our docs below. There's a link below in the description to get started. You can build both no code and code, but for this example, we're going to show you how to do this 100% no code using a tool called Postman right here. We did this in a previous example where we created a Postman account, created a workspace, and then we created a request. We'd recommend watching the previous example to get started, but it's pretty easy. And we just set up our first API request. Now this time, we're gonna go and do this next guide, which is how to opt into a token or NFT, and then how to send that token or NFT. And the way this is set up is we require all users to opt into a token. Normally, you would opt in your users into a token to prevent stuff like spam. The way we have this set up is really simple, and we're gonna actually create a new request. If you haven't already, create a DropChain account at DropChain.network, sign into the developer console, and go into the API dashboard, and this is what you'll see. So we're gonna go back into Postman. We're gonna create a new HTTP request. Actually, I'm gonna go here. I could duplicate this early one, but I do want to show you kind of how to make a new one. So you're going to go into your collection, and on the 3 bullet points, you're going to do add request. And if we go into the curl section of how to opt into an NFT, and this is the case for all of our requests, we have a post request here, which is a special form of the HTTP request. So we're going to go here, we're going to hit post. We're also going to copy the URL. We're going to copy the URL here, which is where we're sending this request to. And then we're going to do a few extra pieces. We're going to have an authorization where we're going to add an API key. And I've already added this. So if we go here, we added this in a previous example. We have a header that is X API key. That's the key here. And then the value is your API key, which if you go back to the DropChain console.dropchain.network, go to your API dashboard, you'll be able to generate an API key with this button. And so in this example, we already clicked generate and we have an API key here. But if you were to log out and log back in after you hit generate API key, you won't see this. You're gonna see this API key section is gonna be censored out with asterisks. And the reason why is because we don't want your API key exposed. So for your own safety, we can only show you right when you make it for the first time. And so by the time you see this, we're gonna delete this and these API keys won't be useful. But copy this API key, go back in here and put it into the value section, and then add it to the header. And then if you also haven't yet, add an additional field, which is content type, which is telling you, hey, DropChain API, what kind of content are you sending? And we're sending application JSON content. Perfect. And then the body, we're gonna hit raw. You'll see JSON, exactly like we just said we're sending. We'll take the first bracket within data, and then the last bracket, and then we're gonna copy that. Copy it. We're gonna just paste it right into the raw section here. And we're gonna go through each of these pieces. So the app ID we have here is at the bottom left, or at the top left here. We're just gonna paste that right in between the double quotes. And then we have a test user ID, test user 1 user ID. We're gonna copy that. We're gonna send them the user 1 user ID. Make sure you remove any extra space that it shares. You can ignore this session token. And the asset ID is going to be the asset that you need to opt in your user into. And so for this example, actually, we're going to change this a little bit because previously we created something called DropChain NFT with a special asset ID 43079142. That's with our testnet. There's a bunch of people that have used the Algorand testnet alongside us, which is what we're testing the API on. And so this is a high number. But no worries, we'll take this asset ID and we'll copy it. And we'll paste that into the asset ID double quotes. We're also going to want to actually change the user ID because the user ID we see here, MQSK, go back to asset mint, is the user who sent this request. They already minted this asset, so they're already opted in. They already have the asset in their inventory, and you see asset user one user ID is the exact same as right here. And so they've already made this request. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take test user 2, opt them into the NFT that we just made with test user 1, and then send it from user 1 to user 2. So we're going to copy user ID from test user 2. We're going to go into user ID 1, we're going to paste it. We're also going to just change this. We're going to call opt in. And make sure you save it after you've made all your changes. And once you have your app ID, your asset token, or asset ID from your asset you've just minted, and then the user ID that needs to send it, which is saying the second user ID in your test accounts, your test account 2, you're going to send the request. And when we look at the bottom, we see that it's been successful, right? Opt-in is true. The sender address is AKED, which conveniently is test user 2's wallet address, AKED. And the transaction ID we can copy. We go to testnet.algoexplorer.io. We paste it into the top. And exactly like we expect, AKED has opted in to DNFT that we made earlier. Go to asset. We're making DNFT called DropChain NFT, which is the asset ID DropChain NFT, which is the exact same asset ID that we just minted. And so then we're going to add another request. Add request. We're going to call it send asset, or actually asset send, because that's what I've done in the first one. We're going to do post, because they're all post requests. We're going to go into send a token or NFT. We're going to copy the URL that we see here. And by the way, if you don't want to go into all the how-tos, we also have an API reference that shows all of the endpoints for everything you will ever need to do. So send an asset here, you click this, you can see all of the information you can pass in if you would like, and the URL here. So we can copy that URL, paste that right here. Remember, we have the authorization, which API key, it'll automatically fill for us because we've done this before. We also want to add the content type. You don't technically need this, but it's good practice to include it just in case, for whatever reason, that requirement is good to have. So we're going to have content type. Push that right there. Oops. Application/JSON. Look at the body, hit raw, and then we're going to copy the data section here. Oops, I hit the wrong thing. It should be send asset. And then we're going to copy that body. And so just like before, we're going to include all of the information we need to have. App ID. Put that in the double quotes. We're going to take test user 1 as the user 1 user ID, because that's the sender. So whenever you see user 1 user ID that needs to send an asset, user 1 is the one doing the transaction every single time. And then the receiver, we can not worry about the receiver address. Receiver user ID, we are gonna do test user 2. Because in this case, we're gonna take the NFT we minted with test user 1 and then send it to test user 2. We're gonna take asset 1 ID, which is this asset ID we just took from the asset we just minted. And we have a video on that before, but we just did the same process, but with asset mint here. And we included all the information we wanted to include. And we're gonna include that within the asset 1 ID. Asset amount integer is gonna be an integer for the number you wanna send. And so we only have 1, there's 0 decimals, so you just hit 1 here. And transaction note, you don't need to include this. We're gonna ignore session token. You don't need to include transaction note, but in this case, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna have it so we can show how this works. We're gonna say, hello, drop devs. That's sort of our Discord channel. If you haven't, we call all our DropChain developers, we're drop devs. So join the Discord, and if you have any issues with this process, happy to help you. Do hello drop devs, and don't forget to save. And we're gonna hit send. What this is doing is it's sending from user 1, or test user 1 unit of this asset ID to test user 2, this test user. And just like that, we've sent it from MQSK to AKED, which we go back to the console, MQSK, test user 1, has sent it to AKED, test user 2, and we copy the transaction ID, we go to testnet.algoexplorer.io, paste it at the top, and exactly as we expect, same information here, we've sent one DropChain NFT from our test user 1, MQSK, to test user 2, AKED. You can see that they had 1, now they have 0, now the receiver has 1. And if we go to the note, let's take a look at text exactly as we put. We have hello drop devs. So you can do some cool stuff with the note based off of maybe you sell a ticket, you want to send it to a person that has purchased your ticket, and you can include information about the purchase ID here, or the ticket ID, or the transaction ID for your app. Or maybe it's a game and you sold a sword and this is the transaction to send them their sword. Whatever it is, you can include any amount of information here. I think up to 1 kilobyte of information within the note field. And that's it, right? You can build a really powerful Web3 app with 100% no code thanks to the DropChain API. You don't need to know anything about smart contracts, and you can do this all for free to start. Create an account with dropchain.network and join the Discord. All the links are in the description. I'm in there, my co-founders are in there, other fellow builders are in there building Web3 apps, and we want to help you build yours as well. You don't have to know how to code to do this. We're allowing, kind of empowering people like yourself to build a Web3 app. So thanks, check it out, and have a great rest of your day.